The story of an aviator stranded in the desert and finding a small boy with golden hair went on to make numerous accomplishments in the literary world. Some of its accolades include the Retro Hugo Award for Best Novella, 200 million copies sold worldwide, the second most translated book, only being outdone by the Bible. It is not only a story of mythos being discovered, but also about the childlike imagination and sentimentalities grown from the pain of the adult world. Loneliness, systemic hatred, love, friendship, care, and an insane insight into human behavior. It is not just a book making you feel something, it is a book resurrecting our nostalgia in minds from when we were curious and knew nothing of real-world logic. But the author, Antoine de Saint-Exupery, was also an aviator, which made me wonder what made Antoine tell this story. What had happened to him to punctuate it? Who even is the Little Prince? I started by looking at basic information, such as the setting of the book, the connection to the desert. It turns out to be a deep scar for him. In a race from Paris, France to French Indochina, his plane crashed in the Sahara Desert, where he was stranded alongside his mechanic. With no food or water, they wandered the desert aimlessly for 4 days until being rescued by a Bedouin tribesman. This traumatic incident influenced the Little Prince, as the narrator too is an aviator stranded in the desert, this time without a mechanic. Exupery's other novel, The Wisdom of the Sands, follows a prince's musings about ruling a desert. This relation to trauma and setting is eye-opening to me. The only books that remind me of this idea are about war, slavery, crime, and poverty. To see it pop up for this children's book is something I think many have overlooked. Another thing to note about Exupery was that he was a poor student who failed the entrance exam into the French Naval Academy. Instead, he studied architecture at the School of Fine Arts in France. In 1922, he was qualified as a military pilot after being conscripted into the French Air Force. It has been historically implied that the Little Prince's love interest, a thorny rose that gave him company on a small asteroid, was based off of the author's wife. Consuelo de Saint-Exupery was constantly left alone by Antoine, as he would leave her to go fly across Europe while having multiple affairs with other French women. She had also been dismissive of him, being involved in affairs and neglecting his needs. At one point, he wrote saying her treatment of him made him suffer. However, soon before his death, he wrote to her, "Consuelo, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being my wife. If I am killed, I have someone to wait for in eternity." By the end of the book, the Little Prince is overridden with guilt for leaving the one person he really loved, the rose on his asteroid. He left her to go to Earth, and now he can't see her again. It is then implied that the Little Prince committed suicide by having a snake poison him. One crucial detail I think many people overlook is the fact that Antoine had a younger brother with golden blonde hair as well, who died at only 15 years old from rheumatic fever. Standing by his deathbed, Antoine has later described his passing very similarly to the Little Prince's. He remained motionless for an instant. He did not cry out. He fell as gently as a young tree would fall. Antoine is a very rough character that wrote beautiful literature, but it seems even his own idealism had hurt him through his recklessness with affection. The Little Prince is a book that reopens wounds we all forget we have. The repurposed trauma adds a quality of something inherently raw and exposing, a very trying book that has been misunderstood and overlooked by most children, which is honestly totally understandable. However, there is value in this for adults if they dare try to still find it in a children's book. It holds a heart that I believe isn't the one that Antoine had, but one he desired and lost, just like the nameless, faceless aviator in the story who lost the Little Prince. The true beauty from the book is also not found within the author, but instead the heart of each individual reader. The Little Prince isn't just the Little Prince, and we will never truly know why Antoine wrote the book, only how it came to him. All that can be known was the imagination and wonder this book could spark in our puny adult minds. It does not exist to give us answers, but instead as a reminder to always hold questions and never let them go. I think the biggest compliment I could ever give Antoine de Saint-Exupery is not the awards he won for this book, but instead that his life is the same as his work, and that's all I could ever really give him.